welcome. I'm Ariana Picciotti, and in this episode, I am going to share with you a little bit of my journey and how I came from a place of chaos to a place of balance with yoga and Ayurveda, and my plan with you guys for the next 2 years here. So, when I say balancing, like when I'm still balancing my life currently, I'm not fully balanced all of the time. But my place was once in a state of chaos. It was fully blown up. I struggled with addiction, relationship issues, codependency, self-destructive behaviors of all kinds, anxiety, depression, eating disorders, anger issues, etc., right? Traumatic experiences. The list was very, very heavy. The past is very heavy when you get wrapped up in it. But I moved from a state of total chaos to, balancing. I'm not always balanced, don't get me wrong. I have very off days, but I'm like this pendulum, right? Which I believe we all are. And we experience these shifts, and within these shifts are elements, right? There are different things that we're experiencing. And in those experiences, we can identify the elements within them, which is why Ayurveda has really clicked so much for me in my life and on my healing journey. Because even after healing from addiction, there comes all these other parts that you have to heal with your mind and your mindset and your lifestyle and your choices that are very difficult. It's like these walls that you build up inside, and breaking them down is very hard. But through this process of awareness can be the difference from having a really horrible day or horrible moment to having a moment and then moving on from it, or not allowing something to blow up your entire life in such drastic ways. So let's start from the beginning into my journey. Again, I'm going to keep this a simplified version. I'm not going to go into the deep details of it. Those deep details are saved for the book that I'm writing. So stay tuned for that. So I was sexually engaged with an older boy when I was 11, and that really psychologically changed a lot of things for me, and it had a lot of deep meaning in my life. And I don't want to give deep meaning to per se that person, but the depths of what I went through. But that person really pushed me to a mindset of self-hatred, and really pushed me to a place of an eating disorder. And then once I got that taste of self-hatred, I really took the reins from there. And I put myself in really crazy situations. And it was almost like an addictive pattern. So at 14 years old, I broke my back in an injury, and I got some taste of opiates, and then I became interesting at school, and then I started taking pills with people at school, and I started huffing and partying and sneaking out and smoking and drinking and lying, and I wanted more of that lifestyle. I really enjoyed that because it was rooted in self-hatred and self-destructive behaviors. Wasn't rooted in self-love. And extreme amounts of pain and chaos happened with this older guy for some years. Abortion was involved, and I finally left that person and went off to live my dream as being the girlfriend to a cocaine dealer, and I was living my dream there, right? Long story short, I crashed my car. I was living in Florida because I moved all over the freaking place. Again, we're not going into the super details of it. That'll be for the book. But I crashed my car. I fractured my neck, and I found myself in a very deep and dark place. And my family helped get me a plane ticket back out to Arizona. So I wound out back in Arizona, which is where I'm originally from. I'm there with my family, and from there I'm just destroying things in my pathway. Now I'm a late teenager. I began my heroin addiction. I was already heavily addicted to Xanax and Percocets and other pills at the time, and I literally took anything. I took everything. Bath salts, meth, crack. Things just really got worse when I decided to use needles. That's when things got really scary. that's when the people I was hanging out with began to change, and the situations I was finding myself in were very different. I experienced many overdoses, several flatlinings. I've experienced life after death for about 10 minutes or so. I've experienced marriage, miscarriage, abortion, like I mentioned. I've, obviously experienced divorce because I'm currently single, death of many loved ones, and the pain just started to overtake my mind at so many points. I would start to think about the past and disassociate from the present. And I would start to be like engulfed in the flames of my own past. And until I would have like a "that's so Raven" moment that would pull me out of the vision. But how did I get here into yoga, right? Like throughout this journey, where was yoga? Where was Ayurveda? I took a few yoga classes as a teenager for my back, because after I broke my back, I was doing that for back pain. I experienced so much back pain when I was a teenager after that injury, like bending over, touching my toes. Touching my toes was a very difficult task. I would get shooting pains through my spine and tingling sensations in my feet and toes. So it helped a bit, right? As far as flexibility and able to now touch my toes and stuff. But I didn't fall in love with the practice of yoga for those reasons, or for physical reasons really at all, because I felt like the moment I started to actually fall in love with it, it wasn't when I took a hot yoga class. It wasn't when I was doing that for an injury. It was when I was doing these classes in rehabs. I was doing these classes and these Cocaine Anonymous meetings where I was a meditation. It was a Cocaine Anonymous meeting, but it was a meditation meeting. You know, like how people go to AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. It was a Cocaine Anonymous meeting, and I was leading it. They asked me to lead it, so I said yes. And which is why my nose is so crooked from all the cocaine. But I led this meeting, and it was like the first time I led people through meditation. I had never, learned about meditation before this point, other than what they taught me in rehab. So I had no professional training, just on like basic things they taught you in a rehab class. And I led this whole group of like 30 plus people. And it was just such a important time for me, because that's when I was like, wow, that's when I felt important. Like I was actually helping people, like other than myself. Because before that point, I mean, there had been times where I'd helped people, like you can help. I helped the homeless a few times, and I did this and I did that, but I didn't feel like it was me serving my purpose per se. And when I did that, when I led that class, that meeting, is when I truly felt a connection with this kind of flow in life. Like, I kind of feel connected with this, with all this. It's starting to kind of make sense. Because before, and even at times, I feel like this place is so weird to be. Earth is so fucking weird to be. Like, almost, quote unquote, I don't belong here, but not in like a literal dramatic sense, and more in like a spiritual or energetic sense, if you know what I mean. But I also experienced teaching yoga at a men's drug and alcohol rehab, and that was one of the most rewarding jobs I've ever had, but I'll get to that in just a moment. The rehabilitation centers, they're interesting because some were really nice that I went to personally, that I was a patient at. Then others were really just terrifying. Those were usually the state-run facilities. But that's where the doctors just use patients as guinea pigs for trial medications. So people are already coming off of drugs, which means they also have vitamin mineral deficiencies and probably neurotransmitter imbalances, mistriggers per se. And then you want to put them on some trial medication, and they just get worse. I did. They put me on crazy trial medications, all these different freaking pills, and it just made me so much worse. Imagine, you are coming off of heroin and you're being told that now you're bipolar, okay, and now you're being put on some trial medication plus a bunch of other medication, and then you end up getting worse. But then the doctor that you're there at this facility, the doctor doesn't see you until next week. So you're going to have to wait a whole week, and you have to take your medications. And then he's just going to give you a different medication. Like these state and government run facilities, they need a protocol change. They need doctors that have training beyond just Western medicine and have a care for individual care. But we can save that conversation for another day. After falling in love with yoga through rehab, right, through these other experiences of more connection, I guess, I already mentioned this. I was asked to lead a cocaine anonymous meeting. But that was like when I really felt like I was doing something important. But after that meeting, like after I led that meditation meeting, I continued to use. I didn't stay sober. I relapsed. My ex-husband and I, we were on a wild bender. And I started stealing again, because that's what we would do when we would take Xanax. We would just steal from cars and stores and people, and it was ridiculous. It's so ridiculous, because I would literally wake up one day with like all this stolen stuff, and I'd be like, who stole this? Like, how did we get this? And they'd be like, you stole it. And I'd be like, I don't remember anything. But yet it's prescribed. So even during then, though, my capital S self was still there trying to guide me. Even during those moments of complete intoxication. English is hard. I woke up I am also enrolled in a Sanskrit course, if you can believe that. But English, I don't know. I need to go back to an English class. But I woke up one day with a bunch of stolen stuff, okay? Including these random crystals. And at the time, I was not into crystals. I was like, what are these? What are these for? But in my purse, I also had papers that described the crystals and like their the metaphysical properties of these crystals to help you with different things in your life. And it, like, when I read them, it matched up to what I was experiencing, all this pain and sadness and grief. Because I had just experienced a horrible miscarriage, this very, very traumatic situation that was really, really, really bad. I mean, it could take up a few chapters in a book, but that'll be saved for another day. But then after that, also losing a very close friend and my ex-husband as well. And so, it was our friend together. Anyways, so these crystals I had were, I was like, wow, that's so accurate for what I'm dealing with, but why the fuck do I have these crystals? So I truly believe that was a moment in my life where things started to shift. They started to change. I did continue to use, but things began to shift. There was a dramatic shift there, especially looking back on it now. If you were looking at my life as like a pathway or a road, that's when the curve happened. But yeah, I was still not sober. I was still using Xanax and heroin, but I decided to make another move, and I moved back to Phoenix from the rehab town in Prescott, Arizona. Anyways, don't worry about location. I moved. I experienced some more traumatic events, even more. Oh my goodness, it just got worse. And I decided to get sober one more time. So I was getting sober from a life, and the withdrawal on the last one really wasn't horrible. It was emotionally and mentally the worst thing ever. I felt horrible inside. But I left my apartment and I went to a sober living. But I ended up getting knocked up by some other dude in the sober living, and we weren't there for very long, whatever. He found out I was pregnant. I told him I was pregnant, and then he left his sober living to go to a Motel 6 and did a bunch of meth, and I didn't want to be a part of that. I said, okay, well, if that's what you're going to do, like, I'm not going down that path. My life is changing. I'm changing my life. This child is going to have a great life. So I said, fuck that. But throughout my pregnancy, I was sleeping with my ex-husband, which is obviously not the father. My ex-husband is currently dead, but I slept with him my entire pregnancy. But he was unable to stay sober, and I could not allow that. I couldn't stay with that. I couldn't be with that. And so I took my baby at 2 weeks old. After I gave birth, took him at 2 weeks old, and I moved to Florida. And I lived with my parents. And my son, it was just me and him, and I shared a room with him, and I was breastfeeding, and I lived off of the savings account I had from cleaning houses from when I was pregnant, and I had no friends, and I was filled with postpartum depression, and I thought that was going to be the end of my life. I don't know how I survived that, really, because I just kept going. I was breastfeeding and dealing with the most intense depression. I decided I needed to do something. So with my passion and love and connection for yoga and helping people within communities on a healing journey, I completed a 200-hour yoga teacher training while my son was attached to my breast. Literally, I was breastfeeding, practicing an entire yoga class. I would practice poses with him attached to me. I would teach a class with him crying in my arms. It was hard. I would end up crying. Like, it was hard. Nobody was there to help take care of him and watch him, and it was just me. And I had this vision of doing something, but I feel like people around me were like, oh, you just want to teach yoga. That you're not going to make that much money. You just want to teach yoga. And I was like, fuck no. It literally changed my life. So, anyways, I didn't think I was going to succeed either, but I did. I did succeed because I moved out of my parents' house when my son was 2, almost 2. I moved on to finish another 500-hour yoga teacher training, and I opened up my own yoga school registered through Yoga Alliance. And then I built, in my parents' front yard, I built my own yoga studio tent. And I sold out 3 yoga teacher trainings, and I made really good income with that. That was really great income. And I was also teaching at a men's drug and alcohol rehab, but I lost that job because they shut down during COVID. They paid really well too. But then after all of that, after COVID had happened and stuff, during 2021, I really hit this wall of depression. And even, I'll just go in and out of the waves of it. But I always come back to my yoga techniques and my Ayurvedic techniques. And I continue to learn and study more. And the more I learn and the more I study, the less supplements I reach out for, the less things I reach out to help me for, and the more I'm able to get that from within. And it's incredible. Because I used to be super into taking a lot of supplements, and that's probably because my vata imbalance. Now, if you're familiar with Ayurvedic terms, you'll understand, but if you're not, we'll get to that. It's just a really dominant dosha type of mine. And I'm very deficient. That means I was very deficient in things, especially coming off of not just using drugs for so many years, because at the point of using drugs, when I was using a lot, I didn't have my period for almost 2 years. And when I did, it was not normal. And that was not good. And so I went from that to getting clean and sober. And I had 2 miscarriages. One was very horrible. And then I was pregnant. Right? And so then my eating habits when I was pregnant was just I needed to eat everything, because I probably was so fucking deficient in everything that my brain was like, please keep going, because survival mode at this point, So I was I put on 50, 60 pounds when I was pregnant. People were like, oh God, you gained so much weight. It's yeah, but you didn't know the story leading up to it. Or the eating disorder I'd had, and my body was energetically nope, we are not allowing anything bad to happen to this body or this baby. And so I just fucking ate. My brain was like, you gotta keep eating. But people always have to say something when they see a picture. That was healthy. You know what I'm saying? When you look at it energetically. So, so I have hit walls of depression after getting clean and sober, after changing my life, after finding yoga, after finding Ayurveda. And I think that that's normal. And I think that we need more. It's because we're so disconnected from communities. We used to have villages, and we used to have so much more connection with people. And I think that's where that comes from, is we lack that. And I see a therapist over Zoom now, and it's just a simple fact of like talking to someone and them like listening to you and like giving you helpful advice in a non-judgmental way, right? In a non like competitive way. Everything out in the world seems so aggressive, so competitive, so opposing, and we're really missing that community. So I think therapy is great, but I think that if you can find other tools to go to besides trying a new medication, of course, I'm not against medication, especially if it's in that life or death situation and you're like, dude, I'm not going to make it. My mind, I'm not going to make it. Bro, take whatever you need to do. Do literally whatever you need to do to survive, period. But after me going that route, I no longer wanted to take that route. And now this is me changing that route and trying to show others that they might be able to too. You know, if they want to, if they're interested in learning and applying. You know, so after losing that really great job during COVID at teaching at that men's drug and alcohol rehab, I was so nervous that I wasn't gonna be able to pay my rent. And teaching yoga was my full-time job, and doing finance and bookkeeping was my part-time job, and now it's swapped. Then after COVID, bookkeeping was my full-time job, and now teaching yoga is my part-time job, and it makes me so sad. But it also is making me fulfill another mission, which is diving deeper into the study of Ayurveda and not just stopping at teaching yoga, because I've taught at so many different studios and places and locations, rehabs, hotels, country clubs, private sessions, parks, outdoor, beach, all, I'm saying like a range of places. And my mission is a little bit deeper than that, to also bring community and yoga and other healing methods. And so I'm bringing it. It's just the wisdom. I'm gathering up all the wisdom. So I'm currently teaching a 4-week Ayurvedic workshop. It's a spring workshop. It's for the season of spring. And we're going over lifestyle changes to make or implement based on your unique constitution, the elements that make up your dosha type, and then like what movements are best for you, what yoga is best for you. And the more I study, right, the more I apply to these workshops. And these are going to be every single season. I'm going to be teaching these workshops, and this is what I'm just going to be continuing to do. I was spending a lot of time teaching yoga online and all these different places, and that's a lot of energy spread out. And this is something I can keep consistent and also keep adding to. So as I learn, the more I add into the workshops, the more you learn, per se. So going along that route of me being in my Ayurvedic course, it was up to me to make some change. So I did. I took the reins and I decided to enroll myself into school, right? I've already been studying Ayurveda. I already went to 3 different colleges. One I have an audio engineering degree in. How crazy is that? I went to school for alternative medicine, but realized my vision needed to be more specific, and that school at that price was so high and such a ripoff that is not fair. So after doing all that, 3 different colleges, 1 degree, and a lot of student debt that is finally paid off, I enrolled myself in a 2-year Ayurvedic course to help support, healing in the community and knowledge and wisdom, because we need to learn these things because they're being lost. That wisdom is like, it was at one point, it was being lost and forgotten. And I think now is the time, if we're going to learn it, the people that are going to learn it and want to teach it, we need to be learning it now and teaching it now, passing it down now. I feel this energy moving inside of me, that it always brings me like this energy. It moves me. It moves through me. I can almost identify it as moving upward. And it moves me through chaotic situations, but it also has an end result of understanding, of peace and healing, right? Of finding the healing within that chaos, but more importantly, wisdom and understanding of the bigger picture of not just that situation, but what others go through as well. So I now understand why I did choose such chaos in my life, why I chose such chaos in my life leading up to this point, right? I was meant to study and learn how to cope in situations that have, and ours is still currently killing so many people. How many people I have loved and witnessed pass away from suicide and overdose is extreme. You might be able to hear the kids yelling outside. I don't know. Or the truck driving by, but just, it is what it is. Welcome to life. And, is it a child or a dog? Oh my gosh. I want to cheer on the parents right now. Like, you got this. Lightning McQueen. Okay, so moving on. I work with clients. Let's wrap this up together. When I've been on here, 25 minutes? What do I do, you guys? I obviously teach a hell of a yoga class. I love to work with people one-on-one. I don't like to do like the whole touchy-feely. I like to do the touchy-feely relax yoga and healing. But when we're doing yoga, we are focusing and we are doing our poses. But when it's time to heal, we relax and heal. And I have a Shirodara machine equipment, it came from Switzerland, special ordered. Not many people in America have it, and I'm going to be incorporating it in my sessions. I'm just finishing up this workshop I'm teaching first, and then I'm going to be applying it. But anyways, I work with clients struggling with mental health, addiction, anxiety, depression, single motherhood, loneliness, grief, trauma. I work with them one-on-one, but my idea and the vision I have in my head is in a group level. People cannot just afford to work one-on-one with people and pay cash at the level that I need to afford to make that my income and help the communities of people that are truly struggling. Do you know what I'm saying? This needs to be in a community form. And so how we get there is, well, people that do and can't afford it. When I can't afford it, I go the most expensive organic non-GMO route. Do you know what I'm saying? I go that extra mile to support local, or whatever it is that is overall better for the community. And so if that means you supporting this way of healing, learning this and applying it yourself and taking those one-on-one sessions, do that. Invest in yourself. But I also enjoy really like bringing group workshops. My vision in my head though, of course I love one-on-ones. I love them, but I really love group sessions because there's a type of flow that happens and shifts that happen when the community has been together long enough. And it's extremely powerful. And the medicine within each person becomes very clear and people's minds become a lot clearer. But so that's why I'm doing these online workshops every season. And they're like Ayurvedic life coaching, where I'm passing on knowledge to others and then they can live a balanced life. So the pathway for the generations next, underneath of us and after us, that's balanced for them and it's expansive for them. And healing and medicine is expansive for them. Because I've experienced a great deal of pain from Western medicine, and I know that it is, proven to scientifically help a lot of people. But also, so have these teachings in that Western medicine just turns its head away from them. Won't fund the clinical studies. And people are out here trying to fund these and do these studies themselves. And finally, we are having some momentum. And there is proof in the pudding. And I really am excited for you to join in next week to listen to me tell you and talk to you and share with you Ayurvedic tips for managing life with unmedicated ADHD. So even if you are medicated for ADHD, please tune into this. It's just that if any tips I give, I'm going to give lifestyle tips and Ayurveda and yoga tips, but also might include herbal tips, etc. And if you're taking prescription medications, you must do your own research to see the contraindications for herbal combinations. If you have any questions or comments, or if you would like to schedule a consultation or a healing session or a private yoga session via Zoom or in person, please email me at ThePalmBeachYogi@gmail.com. That's ThePalmBeachYogi@gmail.com, or just go to my website at www.ayurvedic Ayur-Vive.com. That's AYUR-VIVE.com. That's Ayurveda and Revive combined with a dash in the middle. Thank you so much for tuning in. I will see you next week when we're talking more about Ayurveda and ADHD. It's literally one of my favorite topics because, hello, holy crap, I make people uncomfortable because I move so much. So I can't wait to share this with you. Namaste. Have a great day.